Sheriff, will you call us to order, please?
Yes, sir. Cheatham citizens of Zoom, Honorable Mayor, Commissioners, this Zoom meeting for July 20th, 2020 is now in Zoom space session. If I'd have said this 4 months ago, you'd have thought I lost my mind.
Uh,
I've lost my mind.
Mr. Byron, would you please lead us in prayer, please?
We'll do our best here.
Thank you, sir.
Our Father, we just thank you so much, Lord, for your presence. We thank you, Lord, for your grace in the time of a pandemic and so much uncertainty, Lord, that we're dealing with all of our lives and our homes and families and our government here, Lord. We just ask that your blessing be upon us. We thank you, Lord, so much that you are with us, and we just ask, Lord, that you just help us, Father, to get through this. Help us, Lord, people to work together, all of our citizens, Lord. We pray that you'd ease up and just cure this pandemic for us, Lord, that you'd work your miracles. We pray for those people who are suffering, who are sick, Lord, from many illnesses, that you just heal them and be with those families who are hurting because of lost loved ones. Please bless this meeting tonight, Lord, and bless all of our elected officials, Lord, and the people that are participating, Lord, and their families, Lord. We just lift this all up to you in the name of our precious Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Good. Mr. Anderson has a flag, so if we would all just stand, we can see the flag. Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
liberty.
liberty and justice.
Thank you. Call the roll, please.
David Anderson.
Here.
Gary Binkley. Ann Giroux. Here. Tim Williamson. Chris Gilmore.
Here.
Connie Mayo.
Connie enter. You can add her right there. She's there. She's not
Okay.
right there.
Donnie Jordan.
Here.
Walter Weekly.
Here.
Diane Lovell.
Here,
Eugene Evans.
Here.
Ed Greer.
Here.
Randy Lyles.
Here.
Gary Binkley. Williamson.
Hey, Donnie, Tim said to let him back in.
I just did. I've got Connie back. I don't have Tim back.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Tim Williamson is here. Gary Binkley.
I'm here.
All right. 12 present, 0 absent.
Where is Mr. Williams? Oh, there he is. Sorry. Okay. Everybody's back in. We have a motion on the agenda.
Motion,
Motion, Mr. Evans, second by Mr. Anderson. Any discussion on the agenda?
Chairman Jordan,
Yes.
two items in my area. The second line says County Commission pass through. That pass through needs to come out. I do need your approval or the commission's approval on the 911 appointment. And then the last item I had put on my agenda, the vote for mayor's signature on the contract for the jail's tankless water heater maintenance through Lee Company. That's going to be put off until next month. So if that could be scrapped until next month, I'd appreciate it.
Item 7 is off and item 2 becomes a vote. Is that
That's
correct, Mr. Mayor?
That's correct.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
is the jail committee going to report to us tonight?
Mr. Mayor?
I didn't understand Commissioner Binkley. What committee was he
What
asking?
about the jail committee, if it was going to report tonight?
I have not
Give us
planned.
an update.
I mean, I can give you an update on it if you want that.
Yeah,
Okay, where do you want that on the agenda?
under your section, if you're gonna do it.
Okay, I can do that. We can add that.
Mr. Evans, is your motion with the 3 changes acceptable? Mr. Evans? Mr. Evans?
Hey.
You made the motion to accept the agenda, correct?
Yes,
Is it okay with the 3 changes?
it's
Mr.
right.
Anderson? Okay with
Right.
this? Sorry?
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Anderson, did you second that? And it's okay with you? Anybody else, any changes for the agenda? All the people accept the agenda, say aye. Anyone opposed? Ayes have that. Approval of the minutes, we have a motion.
Motion.
Motion, Ms. Lovell. We have a second. Sorry. We have a second. Mr. Lyles,
Yes.
any discussion on the minutes? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have that. Not any elected officials, unfinished business. In the front of the packet, you had a audit report. That is a standard report that is done by the audit committee. It's usually done in June. It was emailed to me, and as so many other things, probably, it got misplaced. So that's why it's on there. It's a pass-through. It does not have to be voted on. It's their recommendations, their thoughts on the audits that were done on the county elected officials. So it's been officially now placed in the minutes of the county commission meeting. Second one is resolution to rescind resolution number 5 dated May the 18th. Mr. Weekly.
Mr. Chairman, the Road and Bridge Committee voted to rescind the $425,000 out of Mr. Hester's asphalt budget.
Is part of that to rescind it and to put it back where it was, or just rescind it?
Rescinded, put it back where it was.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Binkley. Mr. Hester, are you still out there?
Yes, sir, I am. Thank you.
You want to speak on the issue at all?
Well, I mean, if it's going back in there where I can use it for paving, I don't know what else to say, but, you know, I appreciate it being put back there so we can put it to good use.
Mr. Jordan,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to table this till we get the bids back from the garage.
We have a motion to table until it comes back, until the bids come back. Do I have a second on that motion? Motion table doesn't require a second. Is that correct, Mr. Weekly? Mr. Weekly,
Sir,
where's the county attorney? Have I lost him?
I think you need a second on the motion to table.
We got a motion by Mr. Evans to table. Do we have a second?
I would clarify, it'd be a motion to defer it. Tabling is only for the current meeting.
So you're wanting to defer it till the bids come back.
That'd be fine.
Do we have a second? Motion to defer for lack of a second is denied. We're back to the original motion. Anybody else want to discuss, Mr. Weir? Yes.
I want to clarify that we're putting the 425,000 with this motion, putting it back into paving.
That is
What
correct.
we don't spend on paving goes back into fund balance. If we pulled out of fund balance again, it has to come back before us. Is that correct?
Mr. Weekly's motion is to rescind that resolution and place the money back into asphalt for paving. So at the end of the fiscal 2021 year, if he did not spend it all, then it would go back to fund balance.
His fund balance, so.
His fund balance, yes. His fund balance.
But his fund balance has to come back before us before it's spent somewhere else, correct?
Yes, he couldn't let it go to fund balance and then bring it back out and spend it somewhere else. It would have to come back to us.
Okay.
But if he spends it all on asphalt, then it's spent. Yes, ma'am. Ms. Lovell? No?
I don't know why it turned green.
Okay. Mr. Hester? Mr. Hester?
Yes, sir.
You turning colors on me. I thought maybe you was trying to speak.
No, sir. I'm good.
Okay.
I mean, that's where it needs to be. This money from this prove act needs to be put on the road.
Somebody else tried to speak. I don't know who it was.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I made this motion because that's what the Road and Bridge Committee wanted, but I'm gonna vote not to rescind it because the reason being, I'd like to see this $425,000 be put toward the building of Mr. Hester's shop out there. This is money that is from gas and diesel tax. Anybody that comes through Cheatham County that buys a gallon of gas or gallon of diesel, they're helping fund that. Where if we don't do this, that's $425,000 going to come out of the general fund that is funded by the taxpayers of Cheatham County. And I've talked to people in my district, and they feel like they'd rather see the gas tax used toward funding his building than coming out of the general fund. And correct me if I'm wrong, if we spent what, $600,000 on their property, and then we're going to spend $1 million or $2 million on the building, that could cause a tax increase, correct?
Mr. Mayor? His question was, could that cause a tax increase?
Well, anything as far as expenditure could cause a tax increase. That's a significant amount of money. I agree with you, Commissioner Weekly, that we'd have to figure out some way from county general to fund it. So either the existing pennies would do that, or we would have to add some to it if it couldn't do that, if that was the intent of the commission. But at this point, we don't have hard numbers on that, but you're correct, Mr. Weekly, that could happen.
I was under the impression at one time, Mr. Mayor, that you said that sales tax was what's going to fund this until the property here sold or got leased.
Mr. Hester, all the sales tax, every penny of sales tax collected in the county goes to school operations or education debt. So sales tax could not be used on it. You're talking about property tax?
No, when I talked to you one time, I remembered that you said sales tax, that you had this figured out with that.
Not with sales tax. Like I said, every penny of sales tax goes to education in the county, whether we collect it in the county or half it comes from the city on sales tax. Every penny goes for education. So that wouldn't be an option. I apologize for the confusion. I'm not sure what we were talking about. We talked at one point possibly revenues from the port, but we still don't have that in hand either. So that's not in hand right now to deal with either at this point as far as funding.
And that's my whole thing from the very beginning. And I know I sound like a broken record, but I'm gonna keep sounding that way because I said it from the beginning. $400,000 was what I was gonna put in, and I never backed up one time. This Improve Act money needs to be put on the roads. That's what it was meant to do. You know, I thought we had all this figured out. You know, we've gone 3 years into this whole business, and it's still not figured out. When all along I've been saying I'm putting in $400,000. I don't understand why now it's such an issue.
Well, when we were in the process of buying that property out there, you told us that you wouldn't need a building, but now we're going to have to spend $1.2 million on your building.
And Mr. Weekly, I've said this at least 10 times. Y'all was going to have to build me a storage shed, and that's going to be used for a storage shed. And that out there is only equivalent to what I'm leaving out here if you want to get technical.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have more discussion? Don't want to cut anybody off. Anybody wants to speak, please speak. Mayo, do you wish to speak? No.
No.
Ms. Gupton, would you please call the roll?
Walter Weekly,
No.
Diane Lovell,
Yes.
Eugene Evans,
No.
Ed Greer. Ed Greer,
Yes.
Randy Lyles,
No.
David Anderson,
Yes.
Gary Binkley,
Yes.
Ken Giroux,
Yes.
Tim Williamson,
No.
Chris Gilmore. Chris Gilmore,
Yes.
Connie Mayo,
Yes.
Donnie Jordan,
No.
I have 7 yes, 5 no's.
Declare the motion to, oh, anybody wish to change your vote? Should have asked that earlier. The motion to rescind and place the money back into his operation budget under asphalt has passed. That ends that one. Anybody else?
Thank you.
Mayor, I have a question on that one. May I ask a question?
Yes.
Okay, this may be a question for the county attorney, but that budget amendment was in last fiscal year. So I'm just curious if we need to treat it as if it's in current year and we move it from fund balance and put it into paving in fiscal year 2021 for use, because it's too late to go back to last year.
Was it? I guess the rescission would have just made it go back into fund balance for last year's budget. So if the intent of the current, well, the way we described it was rescinding the prior action, which was for on last year's budget. So I think that only makes it go into fund balance. So it's, you would have to amend this year's budget, move it to asphalt for this year. Does that make sense, Sandrine?
Yeah, so I guess we would need a second motion to create an amendment from fund balance to put it into paving.
Do we have a motion to now pull the money from fund balance and put it back into paving where it was?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Binkley. Do we have a second? Second, Mr. Anderson.
Second.
Any discussion on doing that? Everybody understand what the motion is?
What's the line item in asphalt, Sandrine? What did Mr. Hester have in his line item for asphalt?
In the current year budget?
Yes. Yes.
Give me just one moment. We're looking at it.
Okay.
$489, I think, plus what I had left over. Am I right, Sandrine? And other contracted services?
Yeah, we're looking it up. Hold on just one moment. We have to pull the budget document.
I was thinking last year, 1920, it was $250,000.
$250,000.
I was thinking that was right, Robert. I don't know. That was
No, I don't believe it is. I don't believe it is, Walter. It was like 400 something last year.
Okay.
That's what I wanted to move in there, and then it's like 400. I'm thinking 489, something like that this year, plus what I had left over.
That was last year. This year in the budget document, there's $643,038.55.
Oh, yeah, I was looking at 1920. I'm sorry. You're right. 624,538.55 is on this line item.
Does
So
everybody
will that make it 1,100,000?
Yes. Does everyone understand the motion? The motion is to, the first motion that passed for earlier, technically put it back in fund balance since we've crossed a year. This motion is to pull it from fund balance and place it in this asphalt line item. Everybody understand that? Any questions?
So well, how much will that make it be now?
A little over $1 million.
How much has been spent to date on paving?
You're gonna be crossing budget lines. You wanna cross the budget lines, or are you just looking for this current year?
The current year.
I mean, that's gonna be 17 days.
Oh, okay.
It's a brand new budget year, so there shouldn't have been any spent so far. So we just started.
No,
So-
not this budget year. We haven't.
So we've got 680 something in this year, and we're looking at adding another 425. Okay.
Plus what I had left over. So I had like 100 something left over that, you know, from my last year's paving budget plus the 425. And then, now with the tax collection on the fuel tax going down, I'm gonna be very careful as I spend this money, and that way, if it's in there and the tax collection's okay, I'm gonna put it on the road, and if not, I'll let it go back in the fund balance to help that out.
The 400,000 that is in this motion will absolutely be there because it's there now. It's the 600,000 that could be in question or part of that because of gas tax collections. So that $1 million may not be $1 million, but it's for certain that this 400,000 we just got through doing is absolutely there, because that was last year's money. Any other questions on this particular vote? Ed?
If the money runs short in paving, can we amend this balance at any time through the year? Pull out a fund balance and put it in there? So it doesn't have to be done tonight. It's not like we're stopping anything. We just, if we voted it.
This takes it back to his original request, which is in May, I believe, which was to put $850,000 or right at that into asphalt, because that's when they discovered that $1 million that they had. You with me? So he asked to put 800,000 in there. We didn't do that. So all this is to do is to put it back to that original 800,000. But because we've crossed over years, you're having to go into 850. You're having to go over into fund balance and do it. Because that's where this 425 just went to. Okay? And the other issue that he will watch, based on what Robert is saying, is if the gas tax goes down, then that 600,000 that he said was in there for this coming year, he won't spend as much of that unless the revenue is there.
No, sir. I was talking about the extra 425, Mr. Donnie. If it goes in there, that's gonna give me $1 million, and I would love to put it every bit on the road. I got a place for every bit of it. But if something happens in the tax collections, according to how the gas tax goes, I'll be careful with it. If the fund balance is dropping and the tax collections down, then I'll let some of it go back into fund balance to help that out.
Okay. Everybody straight? Ms. Gupton, let's try calling the roll.
Okay. Gary Binkley,
Yes.
Ed Giroux,
Yes, yes.
Tim Williamson,
No.
Chris Gilmore,
Yes.
Connie Mayo,
Yes.
Donnie Jordan,
Yes.
Walter Weekly,
No.
Dinah Lovell,
Yes.
Eugene Evans,
No.
Ed Greer,
No.
Randy Lyles,
No.
David Anderson.
Yes.
Is there anyone who wishes to change their vote?
Have 7 yes, 7 no.
7 yes, what?
Wait a minute.
You got 5 no.
5 no's, I'm sorry.
Somebody's voting twice.
Trying to help you, Mr. Hester.
The motion to put it
Yes,
back in,
5 no.
motion to put it back to pull it out of fund balance and put it back in operation has passed. Any other discussion on this issue?
Mr. Jordan, when is the time, probably not tonight, but when would be the correct time to discuss, we're like, if we decide not to go forward, county garage, to just keep the county garage where it's at?
The real time to discuss it would be once the bids come back, you see what you're talking about.
Okay.
In my opinion, I mean, that's just my opinion on it. You could make a decision to do that and the bids could come back in a lot less than what you're anticipating.
Yeah.
Or they could come back in twice as much. I mean, I think you need to wait so you've got some basis for a decision of that nature if it's what you're going to do. Or
Okay.
Anybody else? Mr. Mayor, where do you?
Thank you, Chairman Jordan. You should have your list that we submitted earlier. First item for consideration on possible consent agenda would be the Community Commission just passed through and inform you that we have confirmed the mayor's appointment of Jason West to the Board of Commissioners of the Second South Cheatham Utility District. That was a reappointment for Mr. West. The second item for the commission's consideration is the County Commission's consideration for confirmation of the mayor's appointment of Thomas Royal to the 911 Emergency Communications District Board of Directors, and he represents District 5 or comes from that area. Next item is vote for mayor's signature on a contract for CARES Act grant. Next item is a vote for mayor's signature on contract for Zoll maintenance. This is in conjunction with the ambulance service. Next item is vote for mayor's signature on lease agreement contract for Pleasant View Fire Department. And the last item I have for your consideration is vote for mayor's signature on contract for EMS Stryker Maintenance Pro Care Services.
Do we have a motion to get those on the floor? Mr. Anderson,
Go, bro.
have a second? Somebody raise a second. Mr. Williams, discussion or questions on any of the items?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
On the PV Volunteer Fire Department, under the first item, property description, it says question mark, percent of the usable space. What do those two question marks represent?
Commissioner Mayo, this obviously a lease. They had been at the admin building out on 41A when they built out the new fire hall. EMS for the new fire hall on Main Street. This was reviewed by our attorney. It was back and forth about a percentage of the utilities when we were at the old location, and that has been worked out, is my understanding. Is that correct, Mr. Bly?
Yeah, there's a newer version of that contract that should have been distributed, and I'm trying to put my hands on it now to tell you what that percentage is, what that correct percentage is. It is 31%.
31%, thank you.
Yeah, there was that and a couple other things that should be on the updated version. And so if you're looking at the old one, it did say the annual rent was $19,000, payable at $1,600 a month, but that actually works out to $19,200 of annual rent. But that's been corrected as well.
Well, I couldn't find a price on here anywhere.
It's item 3.
Oh, I see it now. Thank you. Okay, thank you for your answer.
Any other discussion on any of the items? Any questions on any of the items? Mr. Hester, are you trying to speak?
No, sir, not me.
Okay, the only reason I'm asking you, your thing keeps turning colors on me. Any other
Okay,
questions?
I don't know what.
You're fine. Any other questions? Call the roll.
Gary Binkley,
Yes.
Ann Giroux,
Yes.
Tim Williamson,
Yes.
Chris Gilmore,
Yes.
Connie Mayo,
Yes.
Donnie Jordan,
Yes.
Walter Weekly,
Yes.
Lovell,
Yes.
Eugene Evans,
Yes.
Ed Greer,
Yes.
Randy Lyles,
Yes.
David Anderson.
Yes.
I have 12 yes and 0 no.
Declare that motion is now passed. Mr. Mayor, we're still with you.
Yeah, the other request was from Commissioner Binkley about an update on the jail committee. We have met a few times. Of course, we're in the world of Zoom on that as well. We had one meeting with the team from HFR. The local committee became somewhat concerned about making sure they understood where we were at and what we wanted and our expectations going forward. So actually pulled out and had a committee meeting, and then we brought back in Steve Griffin last week, which is the main point person on the project. I think it was a very good meeting that he understands where we're coming from, our expectations. And so he, the next day, sent out a new revamp of just the real preliminary drawings. And from that, it looks like they are listening to us and hopefully be back on track. I think our next meeting is scheduled for next Tuesday or Wednesday 1. I'll be glad to get that out to the commission. You're welcome to join us on Zoom. It will be another Zoom meeting, it looks like, if anybody wants to join us.
Mayor, that meeting is set for tomorrow from 3:30 to 5:30.
I'm sorry, it's tomorrow. This is Tuesday, tomorrow, 3:30 to 5:30. So I will get the Zoom invite out on that either tonight or first thing in the morning. So anybody wants to join us from the commission, you're welcome to.
Mr. Binkley?
Yes.
One of the things we asked him for in the meeting was a diagram basically of a timetable, where we are, where we will be, what points of time will things be ready to go. He said we were 18 to 24 months from bidding it.
Oh. Okay.
And also in their preliminary drawings yesterday, or the last meeting, they had removed about 10,000 square feet.
Oh, where'd they remove it from?
They called it, Mary, do you remember what the terminology was?
I can't right offhand, but it was getting back to reality. It helped us out a whole lot to realize they're starting to listen to us and understand what our needs are and what we're willing to pay for in the long run.
They call it Ed, do you know the term?
I do not.
When they program a certain building, the way I understood it, they program it for so many people. And that requires so much square footage. And they call it creep. It's an architectural creep of footage as they do the drawing. So they had to come back in and start moving things back down in size. They also told us that on the first drawing, they had a whole section for women in the new building. You saw that, Mr. Binkley?
Yes, I did.
That's temporary. That's to move them from the old jail to there, to move them back when the old jail is renovated. So that's not a permanent women's area. That would be men's area. And they'll be looking at space again because of that, but that's a temporary thing. So they got a better picture the second go around of what the intent of the committee, and they reversed the way the building is sitting. They were having a lot of trouble getting their loading dock in. And so now the thing has been turned. Gary, if you remember when you first saw the building, the sales were up at the church.
Yep.
The sales are now on 49.
Okay. Well, here's the thing. I thought some of the things that I saw on that diagram, maybe I haven't seen the new one now, but I mean, I thought some of that was going in the old jail, and now it looks like we're adding that to the new jail. So my concern is that I don't want the thing to be so expensive of a project. There's a lot of that stuff that's in the new drawings that could very well easily go in the old jail.
That's what was
Like
told, that's what was told them in that last meeting, Mr. Binkley.
Yeah, the medical part, I was told was gonna be put in the old jail
The
where
what?
the old indoor rec area was gonna go.
The what?
The medical wing, where they had the dentist office and the medical office. Can you hear me?
Yes.
That's what originally I was told was going in there. And now we got a whole section in the jail, according to the diagram I saw on Zoom. I'd like to have a copy of you know, as soon as we get to the point to where we're getting close to narrowing down the way we want it so that all the can look at it. But yeah, I thought there's a lot of stuff in that new drawing that I thought was going in the old jail. So that's my concern. I just don't want the thing to be so expensive that we end up not approving it, not be able to afford it.
We understand what you're talking about. We had that same concern that last meeting with them.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Anybody else?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Mr. Gilmore? Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble getting it unmuted. So there's one thing I want to make sure of, and I know I haven't been involved in all the jail committee stuff, but y'all are talking about cutting out some space. I don't want us to wind up like Montgomery County and some other counties have, and make sure that we fall out of the federal guidelines for the amount of space that the inmates have to have, and we wind up paying for it on the tail end, because Montgomery County could not open their jail. They had to go back out about 2 square foot to each cell because they didn't meet the federal requirements. So we need to be cautious of that on the front side so that we're not paying on the back side.
Well, the state is involved with, Bob Bass is involved now with all the meetings, who has to approve everything through them. The other gentleman that was here, Mr. McCarver, what's his name?
Jim Hart has been with us from the get-go, even selecting the committee and then selecting the architect. And then we also are bringing TCI in very shortly, so they can start, as this plan forms, they can determine how much manpower it would take to do that. Because we talked about it at our last meeting, as important as the price, the one-time price on the jail is the ongoing cost of staffing and make sure we can afford the staff. One thing to afford it up front, it's another thing to afford the staffing for the next 15, 30 years. So TCI will be with us too to give us guidance on how much manpower it's going to take. And that should help guide us on what we should or shouldn't look at as far as being realistic of being able to afford up front and ongoing with the jail operation.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I wasn't talking about this, as far as staffing and how many beds. I'm talking about making sure we're meeting the requirements that are required for what we currently have. I just don't want us to wind up in a pickle where, we can't, where we're going to go back and make, changes in the tail end. It's going to cost us more. If we're going to do it right, let's do it right up front.
Yeah, Mr. Hart and Mr. Bass have assured us that they're not going to let us get to that point. The square footage that we were talking about, the way I understood it, it would be like if you have a programmed building of 250 beds and it's going to require X number of feet, but as you start drawing it, it ends up being for 290 people instead of 250, although you've only got 250 beds. So that's where the shrinkage is coming down. It's not coming down in beds, cell space. It's coming down in I think the sheriff has taken out some office space. All that kind of stuff is where it's coming from. And the decisions about stuff going back in the old building. But Mr. Hart and him said they're not going to let us get to that other point because they've got to approve it. So they're not going to let us go there and then turn around and not prove it at the same time. At least that's what I feel comfortable with them about.
Yes.
Anybody else on the jail? Mr. Mayor, thank you. Ms. Batts, yes, I'm sorry. Did somebody speak? Ms. Batts, we're all with you.
I have a question for the mayor, Mr. Jordan.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Gilmore.
And just for some clarification, Mr. Mayor, because I've only seen this come up one other time in our commission meetings since I've been here. So when we appoint someone to the Board of Commissioners for the utility districts, is that, because I know I had someone contact me a few weeks ago about some things on our side of the county with the utility district. So are they looking for the best interest of us as a county and ensuring that we are, that the utility district's doing things that we need to support growth and business in the county as well?
Well, that would be, I mean, we deal with several utility districts across the county. There's multiple, of course, Pleasant View in the south Cheatham that we voted on today. I mean, the process works by state law, and it was just changed a few years back, that the board has to submit to my office 3 candidates that I can either choose from those 3 or send it back, not accept any, and they've got to come up with someone else. So that's the way generally it works. Now, since I've been in office, most of the cases it's been someone who's been there. And again, I followed Pleasant View Utility District very close for like 20 years. And I realized how that 3-member board can really determine, and time and time again, I hold, we're in the business of potable water. We're not in to bring industry in. We're not in to bring retail, commercial. But still, in order to keep up with the growth and get those revenues, I mean, I feel fairly comfortable right now that 3-member board will be doing some of that more than in the past. Or where I would like them to be, or the industrial development board, to make sure we're ready to capture any opportunity. I can't say that, but I do believe they are there if opportunity comes along. I know it's been a little challenge for hotel and some other bigger industries up there in Pleasant View, and that could have held us back at some point. But that's how the board is selected. It comes to my attention to either accept or send them back, and they have to send me some other nominees from the board.
Okay, thank you for that. Like I said, I'm kind of hearing that, you know, it's almost like you're being held up a little bit, and I get that. And I didn't know what impact we have on that as a commission, or, you know, because I know they're not part of us. They are a private entity, and it is rough when we had to deal with them. But I think that, you know, they need to support us as well.
Well, I agree, and that ability is there. If we truly see a 3-member board that's holding everything back, or they're not taking care of the area they're supposed to be covering, that gives us the ability to say we need some new blood on there. We can change the board out that way, one person at a time as they come up for nomination.
Okay. Well, thank you for that information.
Mr. Gilmore?
Yes.
Mr. Jason Wells is a very fine fellow. He's been in the community a long time, and I believe he'll serve that board well.
Well, and I was just saying that just because it's only the second time it's come up, and I see this and was just kind of getting some clarification on how that part works. I had nothing against Mr. Wester, because I don't know anything about him or the South Cheatham Water for that matter. It just kind of coincidental that come up last at the beginning of the last commission meeting about something here on the north side with the water department, and so that's kind of why it was a good time for me to ask that question for some clarification. And I appreciate that from both of you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Ms. Batts, can you hear me? Wave at me, because we can't hear you at all. Pardon me?
Okay. Can you hear me now?
In now.
Okay.
We're all yours.
Okay. Item 1, budget amendments, county general, public safety projects, $7,580.25. Sheriff, $6,900. Rabies and animal control, $17,500. County mayor, $46,200. Budget vote, 5 yes, 0 no, 0 absent. Funding source, various.
Do we have a motion to approve? Anderson, second by Ms. Lovell. Did you second it, Ms. Lovell?
Yes.
Any discussion? Any of the items? Ms. Gupton, call the roll, please.
Did Mr. Anderson make the motion?
Yes, he did.
Okay. David Anderson.
Yes.
Gary Binkley.
Yes.
Ann Giroux.
Yes.
Tim Williamson.
Yes.
Chris Gilmore.
Yes.
Connie Mayo.
Yes.
Johnny Jordan.
Yes.
Walter Weekly.
Yes.
Dinah Lovell.
Yes.
Eugene Evans.
Yes.
Ed Greer.
Yes.
Randy Lyles.
Yes.
Have 12 yes, 0 no.
I'm assuming no one wishes to change their vote, so therefore the motion has passed. We're still with you.
Okay, item 2 is surplus items for county general. The building maintenance department has 3 mowers that they would like to surplus. Once approved for surplus, items will be sold on GovDeals, recycled or disposed of. Budget vote, 5 yes, 0 no, 0 absent. Funding source, none.
Motion?
Motion.
Motion, Mr. Greer. We have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Evans. Any discussion on them? It does involve the sale of stuff and collection of money. Call the roll, please.
Ed Greer,
Yes.
Randy Lyles,
Yes.
David Anderson,
Yes.
Gary Binkley,
Yes.
Ann Giroux,
Yes.
Tim Williamson,
Yes.
Connie Mayo,
Yes.
Donnie Jordan,
Yes.
Walter Weekly,
Yes.
Diane Lovell,
Yes.
Eugene Evans.
Yes.
Have 12 yes and 0 no.
Motion has passed. Anything else, Ms. Batts?
No, sir, that's all for me.
The sales tax collection is for the month of,
For the month of May, which is actually for funds that were spent in April.
so it's April's expenditure.
Correct. It's April's purchases.
And we are, how much, what's the percentage still?
15.5%.
Okay. Anybody else with questions? Ms. Batts, thank you.
Thank you.
Where is our lady, our other lady?
Dr. Beck.
Where is your cohort?
I'm here.
Well, I haven't heard the baby tonight. That's the reason I didn't know where you were.
I've had myself muted most of the time.
We understand. We just like to keep up with her. Mr. Wilson, where do you?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No public meetings tonight, but we still have the outstanding item of the zoning revisions for adoption. The county commission made a recommendation last month to mandate a 25% commercial development within a C5 zoning district for new development. The planning commission reviewed that and had made a recommendation not to accept that mandate of 25% commercial development in the C5 zoning. So, with that recommendation from the planning commission, it's still up for review and acceptance by this body of the county commission.
Mr. Wilson?
Where are we with that now? Do we have to vote on that? Mr. Black?
You would need to vote on it, yes.
I got a question.
Do we have a motion to something?
I got a question. Oh, yeah.
Yes,
a motion.
You made a motion to accept their recommendations?
No, I'm not gonna make a motion because no.
Okay. Does anybody make a motion?
Make a motion to go with the planning commission.
To accept the planning commission? Yes. Got a motion, Mr. Evans, to accept. Do we have a second?
Second.
Ms. Lovell?
Yes.
Wait a second. Now, discussion.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Williams.
Mr. Wilkerson?
Yes.
Mr. Wilkerson? Is their recommendation going to stay with their original recommendation with the lot size, what was it, 20,000 square feet?
20,000, we kept that in there. So it's basically like it was originally without the 25% mandate for commercial growth or commercial development in the C5 zoning.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I just want to make sure everybody understands what we're about to do when we pass that. There's a lot of C5 zone property out at exit 31. And I don't know that people would do this, but if we pass this, then all that C5 zoning on 41A right there at the interstate exit, prime commercial property, 100% of all the sales tax revenue from that commercial property would go to fund our schools. What we've done is we've told anybody who's got C5 property out there, long as you cut it up in 20,000 square foot lots, you can build all the houses you want. And we'll lose all of that commercial property out there because of that. And I just think, I mean, to me, it makes more sense for them to have it rezoned to C1 instead of C5. But if you got a contractor that wants to go out there and build houses, he can have half-acre lots right there on prime commercial property, and it makes no sense. So I'm going to vote no. I'd like to see this get passed, you know, so that we have all the new rules and regulations for the planning commission. But I'm telling you, there's a lot of property out there on that interstate exit that's C5 right now that whoever owns it can go in there and subdivide it in half-acre lots and build houses. So it's whatever the.
I agree with Gary. I think we're cutting off our feet here.
What's that? I'm sorry?
I said, I agree with Gary. I think we're shooting ourselves in the foot doing this. I'm on your side.
I'm going to rescind my second.
Wait a minute, let's finish discussing it.
Okay.
Wait. Mr. Bly,
Yes.
I don't know where you are. Oh, there you are. Is there, if we don't accept these, I mean, how do you fix that situation like Gary's talking about it? How do you increase the lot size? What do you do?
Well, I think there's a couple of points to make. And first of all, what Gary's described can already happen, except the lots would be even smaller. The new zoning resolution increases the lot size so that you wouldn't have as dense of development as what is currently allowed. But there's nothing stopping a developer under the current zoning resolution from putting residential property in that C5 zoned area. Now, it is true that is good commercial area, and that's the type of development you would probably want to see there, because there's not a lot of other places available in the county outside of city limits where it can go. But what you're really talking about is rezoning. And if you want to rezone it, you can consider that and go through that process. But not adopting the zoning resolution that's in front of you now is not going to prevent that property from being developed as residential rather than commercial, because they can already do that.
And that's correct. And that's the reason that we took a look at it. And in the new book, we wanted to at least make it 25% of that property had to be commercial. And there was even discussion in our committee that it ought to be even more than that maybe 50% of that commercial property out there ought to be commercial, used for commercial. And we landed at 25%. I would go at 50% before, you know, even more so than 25%. But, you know, we passed that last month to ask the planning commission to put 25% in C5. So at least 1/4 of the property would go for commercial. They turned that down. So now what we've got is all residential. Like you said, it's that way now. And we're seeing what happened out there with that one subdivision that got approved, and there's 80-something lots on that C5 tract with no commercial. And it's right beside the exit coming off of exit 31. It's right there, which would be perfect for some commercial business. So that's the reason we were trying to change it, where you had a minimum of some percentage that would go for a commercial development.
Yeah, but if we had this regulation when he was looking at that property to buy and put houses on, he probably wouldn't have done it, because he wouldn't have made any money with having to put less houses on that property. There would have been no money to make if he could only build half the houses that he was planning on building.
Let's go to what he gave for the property.
Mr. Edwards, Mr. Ed.
Who has final say on this? If we vote, does it go back to planning, or how does this work here?
So where you are right now is you have the recommendation from the Planning Commission not to require the 25% commercial component. But you can override that recommendation. It is a recommendation because you do have the final say. Now, if you change something else, then it basically every time you want to change the zoning resolution, you got to get a recommendation from the Planning Commission. You don't have to follow that recommendation, but you got to get one. So you've gotten your negative recommendation on 25% commercial, but you could still adopt that if you choose to. I guess one other thing I'll mention is the discussion that the Planning Commission had about why not to include the 25% requirement. And there was a developer there discussing it as well, was the thought that because of the size of many of the lots there, that a 25% commercial requirement wouldn't be feasible. Now, that doesn't mean they couldn't go 100% commercial, but doing an actual mixed use development, they felt like there was some problems requiring 25% that wouldn't be feasible for mixed use.
And that was a developer worried about that?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I make a motion to amend then, if we have that authority to go ahead and put the 25% on C5. It has to be 25% commercial development.
I second that.
We got a motion and a second on an amendment. Mr. Williams, if you got any
Well, are we going to keep the lot size at 20,000?
Yes.
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 The only thing that went to the Planning Commission in terms of a change from what was proposed was the 25% commercial component. The lot size is getting larger than it currently is.
I thought we voted 20,000 square feet and 25% commercial. I thought that was the motion that Ms. Lovell made.
No, the only thing that passed was the 25% commercial component.
And then it had to go back to the Planning Commission for their recommendation. Let's vote on it again tonight.
That's right.
So this would be a minimum of 25% commercial.
That's
Yes.
correct.
So what is the present lot, what's the lot size, Mr. Attorney? Mr. Black?
Franklin, can you help me out with that?
20,000 square feet.
Well, I mean, that's what's proposed as 20,000 square feet to address the density. It was as small as 1,200 square feet. Most of the developers were getting about 5,000, 6,000 square feet on average. They weren't able to get 12,000 square feet, but you can go as low as 12,000 on residential. And if it's commercial, you can go 750 square feet. It's kind of odd, but some of the reference materials that was delivered to you today gives you a list of all the C5 properties. You can see a majority of them are less than 5 acres. I think the Planning Commission kind of concluded that to require a 25% minimum commercial development on smaller lots just wasn't feasible. I don't think it's going to make any difference whether it's required or not. Most everybody that wants to do commercial development just rezones it commercial. You know, there's been, in the past 5 years, probably 10 different properties rezoned commercial. It just sort of adds another layer of complication with the C5 that really doesn't work that well anyway. But you know, we would just accept the 25% if that's what you approve.
Okay. So we've
Well, if
got,
it's approved, then, excuse me, Mr. Jordan.
okay, go ahead.
But if you approve the 25%, then that property has to have some commercial component to it. If you leave it like it is, you just build houses on it. And you're right on the main interstate exit. So, you know, we spent money running sewer and working with Pleasant View Utility over the last 20 years to get that interstate exit where we could develop it so that it generates tax revenue, especially sales tax revenue for the school system. It can be a gold mine out there for the school system if we get the right commercial businesses out there. And I just hate to see that property already zoned now. If the commission wants to do a blanket rezone and everything C5 go to C1, then that's fine. But if you leave it C5, somebody's going to take that property and build houses on it. It's too prime of a location, that close to Nashville, that, I mean, houses in Nashville are selling for $100,000 more than they are in Cheatham County. So I'm just trying to protect the C5 out there so we get some commercial out of it. And I'm like Franklin, if they're smart, they'll change it all to C1, but under C1, you can't have any residential. Is that right, Franklin?
That's correct.
So if they want to build houses, you just buy a piece of property out there and subdivide it in half-acre lots, build all the houses you want. And maybe you can only get 3 or 4 to a tract of land. You said what, 3 or 4 acres is about what the average is on those lot sizes out there? What if somebody bought 2 lots side by side? You know, they could cut them up and still build houses out there. And I'm just thinking of the sales tax revenue and what the long-term plan's been for that interstate exit is to try to generate commercial growth out there on that interstate exit so that we can offset a lot of this property tax increases for the school system. I hope it generates millions of dollars a year in sales tax revenue for it. Because the people who's going to be paying is going to be people coming up down the interstate exit. But they're not going to get off to look at somebody's house. They're going to get off to stop and eat or whatever. That's the reason we need the 25% on C5. At least it holds them to do something commercial.
We've got a
What if
motion.
they just change it to C1?
Yes. Who
Just
said
change it. Why not just change it to C1, Gary? And that be commercial right there, because we need those dollars for our school system.
But typically what happens is that I've never been a part of doing a blanket rezone where we tell people what their property ought to be zoned. Typically you wait for the property owner to come before the planning commission and ask for a rezone. And we just don't go around, you know, I mean, that happened one time, and you can ask Miss Ann about what happened out in some of those areas out there where the county went in there and did a blanket rezone on people's property. And we had to go back and change a lot of that. I think Mr. Jordan remembers that. But, I mean, typically you want the property owner to come and request what they want the zoning to be. What I'm saying is that it's already zoned C5, and under the way the current zoning is, and this new zoning, is that they don't have to build any commercial building out there. None. And I just don't think we ought to let that happen on all that commercial property around the interstate. That's my opinion.
We got a motion and a second to accept it as presented by the planning commission. We got an amendment to that motion and a second of the amendment to go back to the 25%. Is that correct, Mr. Binkley?
That's correct.
Lot size would still stay at 20,000. Lot size would go to 20,000 square feet?
Well, that's the recommendation from the planning commission, and we didn't pass that last month in a resolution to lower it back down. That failed. So it's at what the planning commission's recommended, and that's 20,000 square foot.
Okay. So we are accepting that 20,000 square foot.
By passing the amendment and the motions on the table.
Okay, that's what I want to make sure of.
Yep.
Is that correct, Mr. Bly? Is that what you understand too?
Yes, you would, and depending on how the vote on this amendment to the motion goes, but
right,
you're sort of teeing up to accept everything that the planning commission sent over, including the 20,000 square foot lot size. The only thing you're changing is the 25% commercial requirement.
Is everyone clear? Mr. Greer?
And this puts this to bed tonight, whichever way we vote. We're not changing anything that we hadn't already sent back to them, except, right?
Correct. What you have, if you pass it with or without the 25% component, then it'll be done. If you try to change it to some other percentage or change the lot size or anything else, then it'd have to go back to the planning commission again.
Okay.
Does everyone understand that?
So we're voting to overrule the planning commission right now.
We're voting to accept everything they have proposed with the exception of the 25%. They turned us down on the 25%. The amendment that's been offered puts that 25% back in.
Okay.
Okay? I think that's correct.
That's the way I understand it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Ms. Gupton, call the roll, please. On the amendment. We're voting on the amendment.
Roll call for the amendment. Gary Binkley.
Yes.
Ann Giroux.
Yes.
Tim Williamson.
Yes.
Chris Gilmore.
Yes.
Connie Mayo.
Yes.
Donnie Jordan.
Yes.
Walter Weekly.
Yes.
Diana Lovell.
Yes.
Eugene Evans.
Yes.
Ed Greer.
Yes.
Randy Lyles.
Yes.
David Anderson.
Yes.
Is there anyone who wishes to change their vote?
12 no. 12 yes, 0 no.
Now we're voting on the original resolution as amended. The original as amended. Please call the roll.
Eugene Evans.
Yes.
Ed Greer.
Yes.
Randy Lyles.
Yes.
David Anderson.
Yes.
Gary Binkley.
Yes.
Ann Giroux.
Yes.
Tim Williamson.
Yes.
Chris Gilmore.
Yes.
Connie Mayo.
Yes.
Donnie Jordan.
Yes.
Walter Weekly.
Yes.
Diana Lovell.
Yes.
12 yes, 0 no.
Anyone wish to change your vote? Ms. Gupton, the vote is?
12 yes, 0 no.
Motion has passed. Anybody else for Mr. Wilson? Mr. Wilson, do you have anything else?
No, sir, that's all I have, unless you have questions.
Dr. Beck, are you back in the meeting? Dr. Beck?
Yes, I am. Thank you for letting me back in. My internet went out.
I'm sorry.
So I'm sorry. That's okay.
Mr. Bly, do you have anything? Mr. Bly?
I don't have anything. I just wanted to say that that zoning resolution has been a long time coming. We've been working on it for about 3 years. And I hope it's a whole lot better for the county. We've tried really hard to simplify things, and you know, there's always difficult issues to address, but we try to make it a whole lot user friendly. And I think that is something that's good for development in the county. And a lot of people put a lot of time into it, and so we appreciate getting it passed tonight.
Thank you, sir.
And if anybody has any questions, I'm certainly happy to address those.
Anybody with questions? Mr. Bly? Mr. Bly, thank you, sir. Mr. Terrell? JT? Can't hear you. Can you hear us? Try again.
How about now?
Yes.
Okay. Wrong unmute. Sorry about that. Well, with the pandemic going on, it's amazing how much is still happening, and it's quite impressive. Actually, we've got to just look at it. We've got 5 projects that are on the books. 2 of them are the ports, which we've known about for a while, but we do have 2 new interested good-sized projects, and then 1 nice retail project. So it's been really busy. About $50 million, about 150 new jobs in our county in these without the ports. So doing well.
Anybody with questions for Mr. Terrell?
I do.
Yes, sir.
JT, do you know anything about the property on Lockersville Road that TVA is looking at, doing core drills, got a lease on, or anything like that?
Yes.
Yes, I do. They have an option, a 6-month option on the property. And looking at it, and the only things that I can find out for sure that if they were to do anything with it, and they'll be looking at 12 different properties if they're going to choose one. That's how they do it. So we're apparently that is an option for them, one of them. But it would be either a solar farm or a gas fusion plant, but there's no gas in that area. So I have to assume if they did something with it, it would be a solar farm.
Okay, I didn't know. I heard a lot of people ask about it, and I didn't know.
There was two women that called me earlier, Mr. Weekly. Oh, wouldn't I call you, JT?
Yeah, it's been several weeks.
And that's what we replied back to them. It seemed like that it was TVA, and it seemed like on the surface that it was a solar plant issue, but that was all. And we couldn't report anything else to them because there was no decision had been made by TVA or anybody else.
No, and
They
there's
asked me if we had any voice in it, and we don't, to my knowledge, do we, Mr. Blythe?
I don't know exactly what they're doing, but I would suspect that we don't have any control over it.
That's what Mr. Trail told me too, that
right.
We don't have any voice. We can't we can't do anything to it if it's TVA.
Right.
And
I have not heard anything different since, and I've stayed in contact with them, but right now it's just an option.
And I believe those women called you as well, did they not?
They did.
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
They called me.
That's what they told me too. Will you let Mr.
Are they
Weekly
12?
know if you hear anything permanently?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Mayo?
Are there 12 sites in this county they're looking at, or we're one of 12 sites?
Well, they generally will have about 12 selections and then take it to their board to choose one.
But just one in our county?
No, I don't know. There's nothing else in our county and probably nothing else in this area. The reason that it would be in our county, to my mind, or Montgomery County, would be the support of the Google Data Center, which is in Clarksville. So I don't know where the other ones are, though.
Mr. Anderson?
Jerome, I talked to you the other day, just kind of update folks about the interest from folks in Nashville with their tax increase going up 34%. Are we getting interest from Nashville area?
We are, and I'm trying to weed through those to make sure that they're serious or not. And at this point, it's just been a matter of talk because the land prices have gotten higher in Nashville. They could sell their land there and move out here, and that's exactly what Nashville Fabricators did as an example. So they were just ahead of the curve. But yeah, we're getting a lot of that in speculation of what might happen, what might not happen. So.
Anybody else for Mr. Trail? Jerome, thank you. Please let Mr. Weekly and I know if you hear anything.
I will. Thank you very much.
Before we move any further, the director, Dr. Beck, are you there?
Yes, I am.
You've been very nice and very patient. Do you have something for us tonight?
No, I certainly want to thank Mayor McCarver and the local health department for meeting with me in regards to just looking at the daily data in regards to our COVID-19 cases. We had some questions. We had really good conversations, and I will tell you, I think our local health department has done just an outstanding job. I so appreciate you, Mayor McCarver, for making that video. I think it is really informative. You know, that data has really been what we have said all along would be our metric to determine what model to open school in. And all of a sudden, we got in writing from the state health department that said, don't use that. And so it's kind of thrown a wrench in terms of thinking about what should we use in regards to determining, do Do we open school full blown? Do we start with the hybrid model? So we're kind of working through that right now. We just did a recent survey to all of our parents asking if we open in the traditional model, which I will tell you I really want to do. I'm not sure we'll be able to, but I want to. Would you like to have your children come back to school, or do you want to do online? And certainly everybody has that choice. We're seeing right now pretty much a trend of about 70% of Cheatham County residents that have their children in our schools are planning on sending them back. And so we're encouraged by that. Lots and lots of decisions to be made, and the information that we have changes daily almost. So I would tell you we're all working about 10 to 12 hours a day, trying to wade through and make sure that we make the best decisions for all the citizens and our stakeholders of the school district.
Mr. Anderson?
Dr. Beck, I know that the daycares in the schools or the elementaries and whatever are open. How is that going with our children? We're not having any issues with COVID with that, are we?
David, I'm so glad you brought that up. Thank you for bringing that up. We have been serving 165 students 5 days a week from 6 in the morning until 6 in the evening. And several things they have in place have worked really well. All our staff, they're wearing masks, we're taking temperatures, lots of great safety measures in place. We have not had one child or staff member had any incidents of COVID-19 whatsoever. So that's been very encouraging to us. I always going on the record saying I'm a huge proponent for masks. I certainly, we've got teams that are going into every single classroom to make sure that we can social distance. We have a discussion about masks at our next workshop, which is on the 30th, and I certainly am going to be advocating for our students to have to wear them when we cannot social distance them. So that's where we are, but we're very pleased with the outcomes for the daycare. That to me has been very encouraging to us in terms of the practices we have in place and the results that we've gotten.
Let me ask you, do you have, how do you feel? I know that some of the teachers are, they're talking about wearing the, like the clear mask like they did over at the voting precincts. How do you feel about the clear without the mask? To me, the mask confides your breathing, and the clear, the guards there protects anything from coming out if there is an issue. What do you feel about that?
Well, I tell you what we did was we asked every school to find out how many of you would like us to order face guards for you as well. Now, all of the information from the health department that we have gotten is that they are really only truly effective when they're worn in conjunction with a mask. And so we are going to advocate and say, we have bought those for every single person that wanted them, just to add an extra layer of safety. And again, we're not mandating them right now, but we want to make sure that we are doing everything we can do to put safety measures in place. But everything we've been told, David, is really they work the best when you have both a mask on underneath them and a shield.
So we're not going to require all the children, especially the younger ones, to have to wear a mask starting the school year, correct?
That is the plan for right now. Yes. Now I again, as I said, I'm going to ask the board to let me require them on the buses. We cannot social distance on the bus at all. And so to me, because we cannot social distance in the bus, I think they should wear masks. But that's just my thinking, and I'm going to ask for that at the work session coming up. In the classroom, we can separate, and so I feel better about that. But on the bus, no, I want them to wear a mask.
Can I ask you one more question, Dr. Beck?
Of course.
What if, because I have heard of different school systems talking about like doing a temperature check when they're at the bus stops to pick up the children, as having an extra person on the bus who would do that. And if a child has a temperature, then they would not get on the bus, which would help not spread this COVID.
Well, David, that is an excellent point as well. We don't have people, we don't have people to ride the bus. We don't have that in our budget. We are looking at possibly having them have their temperatures taken before they go into the building. It's a kind of a manpower thing. I am working with the Workforce Development Center to see if we can have, and they would pay for them. They've got some money to pay to support through COVID, to have some extra people in our school buildings that could help with taking temperatures. So that is something we're exploring, looking at, and thinking, how can we do that? We do have the thermometers. We have enough for 10 thermometers per school. But what we have also in place is when the children come into the school, last year and all the years prior, they all would go into like the gym or the cafeteria and congregate. And certainly we don't want them to do that this year. We want them to come into the building, go straight to their classroom. And so teachers are going to need to be in their classrooms. So just finding enough people in the school building to stand out front and take the temperatures is our big challenge right now.
All right, thank you very much.
Dr. Beck, if you had the funding available, would you have the personnel to do it on the bus?
You know, that's a really good question. I don't know. You know, that's not anything we've ever had the funding for, so we haven't been able to ever advertise that position. I certainly having that would be a great help, but I don't know. I would love to be able to see. And like I said, one of the things that we said with the Workforce Development Center was, when they said, can you use extra people? I said, absolutely. Here's one of the things that we need help with. Another thing that they are going to do, if we can get them, is during the day, like when children go to PE, these workers in between PE classes would sanitize all their equipment. Or if they're in band or things like that. Those are not things that our normal custodians do. And so just if a child moves from one classroom to the next, being able to help wash down the desk in between when children move from one area to the next. We're trying to limit, really minimize transitions as much as possible. But those are just the challenges that we face right now.
Well, and I think we all know this, but there's two real critical. If they get on the bus and they do have the temperatures there and it's obvious that they've got it, then you can just about figure out you're going to have to quarantine at least half that bus.
Yeah.
All of it.
Oh,
if they
yes.
get off the bus and give it to a teacher, you may have to quarantine the building. I mean, that's all this stuff just keeps mounting, not so much on the child as it does on the adults.
I totally agree. I do.
Children that cannot visit grandparents. I mean, grandparents are going to be out the door.
What we noticed is that a lot of the families that have opted to do virtual learning have older grandparents that live with them or that they view, and so that has been the most part, the main reason that they say we cannot send our kids back into the building.
Sure.
So definitely, the exposure is defined as being within 6 feet of someone for more than 10 minutes. And so certainly the things we can do on the bus, we're going to have siblings sit with each other. We are going to have seating charts so that if someone does end up with it, we'll know exactly who has been exposed. The bus will be completely washed down after the morning run and then again after the evening run. But I would like to add the layer of mask as well. I think that would be an extra added layer of protection. Then when they're going to get off the bus, instead of all buses unloading at one time, they're going to unload one bus at a time. And we're trying to figure out how we can add that extra layer of when they get off the bus, take their temperature, and if they have a temperature, they go straight to the nurse and their parents are called. And so that's a challenge we're working on right now. Lots of challenges. That's one of our big ones right now.
Dr. Beck, one more question. I'm sorry to ask so many questions, but if funding was to become available, it seems like the person that would be on our buses in each county bus there, then they could do that. You could stop the spread right there from a child coming on that might have the problems.
Sure.
you would only have it on the morning, take them to school in the morning, not in the afternoon. So you would only have to have that person on there to take temperatures in the morning. Is that okay?
I mean, sure, that would be a big help. That would certainly stop them from getting on the bus and starting the day. Hopefully, I would imagine that any child that gets a temperature at school, we're not going to let them on the bus anyway. So yeah, that would work if we could find people and the funding to do that. We cannot ask our bus drivers to do
Yes.
that. We've already investigated that.
How many buses do we have right now?
I'm not sure. I will tell you, we are down 12 drivers right now. So, I mean, we're really struggling to.
You're like
even
doing double
find
routes,
drivers.
right?
Yes, and we've driven double routes for years, but we are down 12 drivers right now, and I believe we have around 62 routes, somewhere around in there.
Dr. Beck,
Yes, sir.
you and I had discussed, or we had discussed probably 3 meetings ago about the numbers. We was trying to guesstimate what it would be for the in school training versus home training. And so now you think the number may be as many as 30% that will stay home?
Yes, I do, and so that could easily be anywhere from 15 to 1,800 students that will stay at home. So here's another challenge that we really need to address as a county is internet access, broadband internet access. We are purchasing about 100 hotspots to put around. We're also going to put in addition, let me back up. We're going to put 18 hotspots on buses, 6 in each cluster. We're trying, and if any of you can help us get this information, this was what we were working on today. We'd love to see a map as to what all areas in each cluster have broadband internet, so that we could park buses in areas that do not. These hotspots will only work in areas that have cell phone service, though. And so if an area doesn't have cell phone service, then these hotspots are not going to work. We're also purchasing about 100 extra ones to check out through the library for families that cannot get access through the hotspots on the buses. Again, any of our families though that don't have cell phone service and any internet are truly at a disadvantage in terms of if at any point we have to be completely online, these families are going to be at a major disadvantage.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else with Dr. Beck?
Dr. Beck,
Yes.
did you gain another full-time mechanic?
Dr. Watson, I know that we have been interviewing. We've looked at. I don't even know the status of that right now. Dr. Watson, can you give us an update on the mechanic, please? Any mechanic position?
Yes, we did. We hired and verified their background.
Outstanding. That's outstanding.
Thank you.
Full-time.
Sorry, go ahead. Whoever was trying to talk, go ahead.
Ask Dr. Beck, are these people full-time?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
they are.
Dr. Watson, I'm glad to hear your voice because I couldn't tell whether you were on or off.
I got a
Anybody else with
question,
Dr.
Dr. Beck. I do.
Mr. Anderson?
I just think that maybe the education committee with the schools, with Dr. Beck and stuff, maybe we ought to look into this as far as the safety of our children is so important. And I believe if we could find some funding somewhere, some way, that we can make sure that our children, anyone who are sick, they would not be getting on the buses and the parents would be responsible for them. But that we might could find that bus just for the morning so that we could get children to school safe and not have a major outbreak because you had a child that was able to get on the bus sick. I just think it should be looked into, please.
Mr. Anderson, and Dr. Beck, this is another concern, and I know Dr. Beck would have this concern, but when parents go back to work and their 7-year-old or 6-year-old is left at the bus stop or the house, they think they're going to school.
Yeah.
If they get to the bus and we turn them around and say, you can't get on the bus, you got to go back home, they're going back home in a lot of cases to an empty house.
I understand.
And they're running a temperature of 101 or 102. All that stuff has to be weighed into it, but I agree with you. If there's a way to stop them from getting on, you're going to have a safer environment for everybody else.
You know, Donnie, you absolutely have a true point in that a lot of times many of our parents leave and these children get on the bus by themselves. Certainly if we caught them before they ever got into school, then at least that we wouldn't infect entire classes. Yes, we would infect people that are sitting near them on the bus, but that would not send a child back into an empty house all day. So there is a lot to weigh in on what's best for children.
And Dr. Beck, couldn't you put like out a memo and stuff as far as to the parents, to check their temperatures of their children, and that might help too.
Oh, I promise you I will.
I'm just asking.
No, I promise you I will tell them, I have a motto, and my motto is education's like a three-legged stool, and it takes all three of those legs for that education to work. And one leg is obviously the school, and one leg is the student, and one leg is the parents. And I always say all three legs have an equal responsibility. They have different responsibilities, but they're all equally important. So I will give that talk that I give every single year, and never will it be more important for everybody to not send your children to school sick, and they do sometimes, and I realize that. And here's another piece that we're struggling with. I'm just tell y'all, if you've looked at the list of symptoms for COVID-19, a headache is on there. Or think about how often children get fever with an ear infection or a sore throat. And, just thinking about how we determine how to move forward with a headache or a fever or a cough. I mean, y'all know me, I cough all the time, just in general, every day. So just trying to make sure that we are super careful and that we do the right thing for everybody. It's going to be a year. Y'all need to all keep everybody in your prayers every day.
Anybody else for Dr. Beck?
I would.
Yes,
I've
sir.
been trying to. Dr. Beck, do you anticipate an increase in homeschooling this year with the virus as it is?
I do. I absolutely do. And it's gonna be very hurtful to our district, but I absolutely do. And I think we'll see it for many reasons. The state is requiring us to provide 6.5 hours of instruction. And I understand their thinking. Their thinking is we want to make sure that our children that are online have access to every single bit of instruction and work that a child in school has. And but we also, we don't want children to have to sit in front of a computer for hours upon hours during the day. So that when I've tried to put out, here's what the state is requiring. Here's how we're going to try to best work this. I've seen on various parent group things saying, well, if you go to this homeschool, you only have to do this little bit, and that little bit, and this little bit. And, yeah, I definitely think we're going to have some that are going to homeschool without a doubt. Now, if we get a vaccine or this situation, when it gets safer, I think they'll put them back in. And I pray that it will be quick. But right away, I think some might homeschool.
I knew I'd heard several people say that they were going to pull theirs out and homeschool them this year.
Sure.
And I didn't know.
Walter, we're seeing that all over the state of Tennessee. I have complained to the Commissioner of Education on just this very topic. And I've certainly talked to her about rural districts and what they are expecting all districts to do, but particularly the stress it puts on rural districts and how we in these districts are going to be affected. So we, as directors across the state, are certainly pushing back and trying to help them understand the challenges that rural districts face. We haven't gotten anywhere yet, but we continue to try.
Thank you, Dr. Beck.
Anybody else have questions for Dr. Beck?
Dr. Beck, if you have a large group of students that either, I guess it would be more of the just doing electronic school. Would you have to do a staff reduction?
No, not really. We don't plan on doing a staff reduction because it's going to take everybody I have to, and especially if you think about it, I've got right now 70% coming back. And so and then I've got this other 30% that are going to require many hours of instruction every day. It's going to take all hands on deck to pull this off this year. So no, I don't see a staff reduction at all. It's going to take everybody to do this well. And I will say, Tim, another thing is when I asked the Commissioner of Education, well, how do you determine that our families that don't have internet access and don't have cell phone service, how are we supposed to serve them? And the answer that we get is we're supposed to call them on the phone and offer instruction through the phone every day. Well, so if I've got, let's just say I've got 1,800 students online. Let's even say I have 500 of them that we have to make phone calls to every day. It's going to be just a gigantic job to do.
Yep.
Hey, Dr. Beck.
Yes.
So I know, like at ACES, my wife's Miss Adams is kindergarten.
Yeah.
And so one of the teachers, I think Miss Tomio, is going to be the virtual online teacher, and I think she's already got like 16 or 17 set for that class. So is that pretty much going to be each grade level that you'll have at least one virtual online teacher?
It is. We left that up to each school how they did their staffing. Not every school is doing it like that. It depends upon how many students are going to be online at each particular school. Again, as I said, the district average is about 30%, but there are other schools that only have like I believe Sycamore Middle right now only has 17% that are going to do online. And so I don't believe that will warrant a position. And that's across 4 grades. That won't warrant a position. So it's dependent upon each numbered school, and it's different at each school how they're going to address it.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Dr. Beck, I think
Yes.
our prayers are with you because
please.
This is unprecedented what you're having to go through.
It is. It's very stressful. It's very stressful.
Yeah,
because it seems like no matter what we do, people are unhappy, and that's just the nature of the game. But you know, it is. There's no manual for this, and you know, Donnie, you're an educator. They don't train you for anything like this in education school, and so you know, it's a new learning experience.
Good luck with it, and
yeah.
Thank you. I do have a great team. I tell you, I have a great team, and we rely on lots of help around the state, and we share resources. And so I do feel like, you know, when we can figure out a couple of these little challenges, that we will have the best plan in place that we can possibly put together.
well, if you can keep the middle school and the high school students social distanced, you will be away from everybody else.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Dr. Beck? Dr. Beck, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks to all of y'all.
Sheriff, wherever you went. Sheriff, you there?
Yes, sir. Wake up.
Are you awake?
What everybody's doing. Still here. We're still fighting crime. Overdoses have been nonstop. And we have a different pandemic going, or epidemic, but it is what it is.
Anybody with questions for the sheriff?
Mr. Sheriff?
Yes, sir.
You wait till that next round of checks come out.
Oh gosh. Seems like everybody's bought kayaks with the first round because the Harpet's full of kayaks. And heroin.
Hey, Sheriff, how many is in the jail right now?
I'm sorry, David.
How many's in the jail right now?
We're still operating just a little over half capacity. We've gotten beyond a little bit above that, but right now the circuit court judges are keeping the pressure on us to keep it like every other jail in the state.
Thank you.
Anybody with questions for the sheriff?
I can assure you, Sheriff, that the numbers are way up on the Harpeth River, which I know you're aware of. I see it daily. But you know, most of the people are being sensible and they're picking up the garbage, which is unusual, and they're acting pretty decent as of right now. So hopefully there's no social distancing though.
Right.
And they're not wearing masks and they're all together in big crowds, but I mean, what do you do? So hang in there.
You've got the majority of millennials who are, you know, a lot of them are coming out of Nashville and all, and you got a lot of them that less are using the outfitters or just coming with their own kayaks. So we've seen just a explosion of that.
Yeah.
So far, we haven't had any major issues on the river, like any assaults or anything like that. We've been pretty lucky. Thank you, Randy.
Thank you.
Ed, I know y'all were working on something about the roads.
We were looking at posting several of the roads around the parks where there's so many individuals. I was gonna let Mr. Walters speak on that. It went through Road and Bridge.
Mr. Wakely.
Yes, sir.
Can you enlighten us, since we own the canoes and the rental, about the road situation?
Well, I was going to do it under the Road and Bridge Committee.
Okay, we'll wait then.
I can go ahead and do it now. Doesn't matter.
Do you have anything else on Road and Bridge?
Well, we had a motion to put up no parking signs, a two-way zone from Highway 70, Cedar Hill Road, Old Cedar Hill Road, and Kingston Springs Road, and the narrows of the Harpeth. And we wanted before we brought it to the commission, we wanted our attorney to get in contact with TDOT on the Park Service and see if we could do that. Road Department, Mr. Hester said he'd be glad to put them up.
Mr. Hester, are you still there?
Yes, sir, I am, Mr. Dunn.
Anything from the state or anything, can we do that?
Well, I don't know. I haven't checked with them yet. But that's something we're going to address again at the next road bridge. We can check with the state engineer, you know, and two, you know, we talked in the road and bridge. We need to get the sheriff in on this. We're going to have backing, because if we put the signs up and don't enforce it, it's just a joke. So, and I was down there this past 2 weeks ago on Saturday maybe, and it was early in the morning. And I took several. There is some no parking signs in the tollway zone down in the narrows, and there wasn't but 8 or 10 cars down there, because I was down there pretty early. But every one of those vehicles was 2 or 3 of those vehicles out of state, and the other ones was out of county. I don't think there was one vehicle there from Cheatham at that point. So most of the people that we're going to be towing is probably going to be out of county or out of state. If we can get backing on this, and it's legal for us to do that.
Mr. Bly, do you have any opinion on it? Have you had a chance to look at it?
I have not looked at that issue before, so I'm not sure exactly what our authority is. I'll be glad to take a look at it.
So you think by next month we will have something this week?
Yes, I can have something by next month.
Okay.
Mr. Wakely?
Did you have it by the second Thursday in August, Michael? That's when we have a road and bridge committee meeting.
I'm sorry, Walter, I only heard part of that.
I'd say, do you think you could have us answer by the second Thursday in August? Because we'll have another road and bridge committee meeting to address this issue.
Yes, that's the
Okay.
second Thursday in August.
Yes, sir, 4:30. And I think we can do it in the McCullough room and Zoom too, can't we, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, you should be able to, Mr. Wakely, yes.
Okay.
I'd like to, could I comment on this?
Yeah.
Mike, I've rode a lot of these places with Lisa and Bill before we brought it up. They're having to put out cones everywhere with no parking. So this will help the parks. They were in favor of it.
And mostly all of those cones were provided by the sheriff's office. So we've been, yes, sir.
And the problem is people will move that cone in the park and then they're on the river for 5 hours. Then the road.
Yeah.
Sheriff, is this going to help you or hurt, or is this, what's your thought?
No, we'll write tickets. We, during the summer months, we normally, what we do is have 2 deputies come on, several hours early. The biggest part of it is from noon to 4 p.m. in terms of the traffic getting there and then everybody leaving. But no, we'll write tickets all day long. We'll even tow whatever we got to do.
Will you have them towed?
Is it, Mr. Weekly, is it the issue of it's not a ticket issue, it's a towing issue, correct?
I'd like to see them, towed, because, this has been going on for years and years and years. Doesn't seem to be a end to it.
Mr. Wiggly? Mr. Wiggly?
Yes, sir.
I got a call Saturday from Mr. Potter right up here on Craggy Hope Road, and he could not get into his farm because there's a big turnaround area right there beside the road, right on Craggy Hope Road. And he asked me what we could do about that. And I told him, good luck, but maybe I can add your name to the list with the signs, or your area right there. So that's another area that is distressful. This gentleman can't even drive into his own farm for the vehicles. People are going down on Turnbull Creek and they just don't care. So,
and Randy, if I'm not mistaken, I think Mr. Potter's gate was torn down from the inside coming out. So evidently somebody was inside his property and then ran through.
And tore it all to pieces. And he's sick and tired of it like everybody else is. And that's a good spot for another sign.
I know the Harpeth is.
Does anyone wish to make a motion that, based upon the acceptance and approval by the county attorney, that we approve this now?
I'll make a motion.
In the August meeting?
I'll second it.
Mr. George, well.
Did you make the motion?
I did.
You seconded, Mr. Lyles?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Bly, is that legal?
I don't know, because I haven't really looked at it yet.
Is it legal for us to put the monkey on your back and say that if it passes the legal test, that this passes, that this is put into effect?
Yeah, so what would go into effect would be to post it as no parking.
In the tollway zone.
Yeah, and for the area that was described earlier, I mean, you would need to describe what area you're talking about. It was described earlier, but that would need to be part of it.
Yeah, what we're talking about is he made the motion and listed some roads.
Yeah.
So if the legality of posting it and towing it passes, what road and bridge comes back with as far as roads would be the roads, I mean, where it would go, which is what they've already done, if I'm correct. Is that right, Mr. Weekly?
That's correct, but I think Mr. Lyles or Mr. Greer wanted to add another one to the list.
Randy, were you wanting to add that at Craggy Hope Road?
Yes, sir. That one little entrance on the left, and the sheriff knows where that is as well. It's like a quarter of a mile down Craggy Hope Road on the left. There's a big turnaround. I'm sure Mr. Hester knows about it. Everybody uses that little area. So.
Yes, sir. We park there sometime when we're out there working. Of course, we don't block the gate. But yeah, I'm very aware of it right there at the low water bridge that goes across the Turnbull.
That's correct. And he's not concerned about the people that are working. It's the ones that park there and just take off like they own the place, you know.
Mr. Gilmore?
Yes, sir. I understand.
Mr. Gilmore?
I think one thing we need to think about with this, and it's not, I don't want you guys to think that I'm not for or against whatever, Randy or Ed, but I think something we got to think about is if you don't ticket those cars, we don't have an impound lot in Cheatham County. We're not like Metro where there's an impound lot where that car goes to where there's any benefit that comes back to the government. So you're looking at a tow company coming in towing the cars, and there's zero out of this to the county other than it just towing the cars away. So, you know, you got a tow lot that's making whatever they charge these people. I think we need to make sure we're doing our homework on what we're doing, guys. And
but Gilmore, the streets be clear.
The streets are going to be clear, but then what do we want? Okay, but what about the revenue that brings in for the county as well?
Well, you get the ticket.
Y'all said you wanted them towed and not ticketed. If they just come out there and y'all set it up to where they can free range tow them, there won't be a ticket run on every car.
See, I don't think we should be looking at this for income. We're looking at safety.
I'm not saying it's for income, but it's all, you're going to run away some income also. How can we embrace this instead of just trying to shut it completely down? I think we've got to look at the big picture, because it's not just the Harpeth River where we have the problems. It's the same thing on the Sycamore Creek. You know, this is something that everybody across the county and across the state is starting to do, is to get out and be a part of things. And I get it's a problem, but I think we need to really be careful in how we consider what we're going to do here.
And gentlemen, just keep in mind also, we're kind of getting toward now, you know, we're a few weeks away from the season really winding down once school and all that and colleges start back. So we may have a little bit of time to really plan this out on how we're going to do it. It's the crowds are going to start dwindling pretty soon. We're seeing it, especially into August.
Okay, Mr. Whitley, based on that, you just want to bring, Ed, y'all just want to bring it back in August? It's only a week of difference.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine with me. I want to do it right. I'd rather move slow and do it right.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. Yes, sir. I'll agree with that.
Okay, we'll just let it go that way and come back in August.
I like Ed. So this is not about the revenue. This is about controlling the traffic on these people and on right-of-ways that these people that live down these roads cannot, they can't even get to their own driveways because of these cars. So that's what this mainly is about. I'm not concerned about the revenue end of it.
I'm having to eat my words about this a lot. I've said outfitters were the problem, but there are so many individuals floating the rivers now that's just, and it's not a problem, it's just so many people. Cubes, everybody that buys an inner cube floats a river now.
Yep.
Well, it's a good place to drink.
Yeah. Well, you tow your cooler behind you.
I don't think we're rushing this.
Y'all forget the sheriff's listening.
I have been on a commission since 2010 along with you, and this is the same thing that started with when we got on the commission. So we're not rushing anything. These people down there deserve better than what they're getting. And tow the cars, I don't care about the revenue that a ticket's going to generate. I care about them people that are being abused by these yo-yos coming out, parking wherever they want to. You know, I don't care who tows them. Get out of Nashville. I don't care. But tow a few of them, maybe they'll learn. That's all I got to say about it.
Commissioner Weekly, there's a process for them having to tow, though, that has to go through dispatch and things that have to be followed. That's why I'm saying that. I'm not against it, guys. I'm just saying I think we need to be careful and think about, we've got on-call wrecker services and they go through the next scheduled service, and then does a lot have the capacity to hold the cars that we're asking them to put there until they can come get them back? You just got a wrecker service that's going to be the one to benefit out of it, that reaps the huge reward out of it. It's where I'm going with that. That's all I'm saying about it. I'm not saying the record companies don't deserve it for coming out. There's just a lot more to it than just towing them off, just snatch and go.
Well, they can build a bigger fence then if they're making that much money.
I can tell you for sure at the Acme feed store in Nashville, they have a sign that says no parking. If you park, your car's at such and such, and gives you the telephone number. because they towed mine. No. You put the telephone, get somebody to say, I'll tow 24 hours, 7 days a week, and put the telephone number there. That's all we need to do.
Well, they told them in Nashville out of the parking lots who don't pay to park. After they put boots on them, it costs them $50 to
But
get
we're talking about a public roadway also, a right of way.
I'm thinking that if we make these tollway zones, less people will be parking in them, and that problem, I may be naive, but we probably won't be towing that many cars. If we designate these areas as.
Miss Mayo?
Hey, why doesn't somebody put in a parking lot over there and charge?
Lyle, do you want to address that?
Well, no, I don't want anybody else on my property as it is now. I got 2,500 people a weekend hitting my property now. I don't want to deal with them. I'm tired of dealing with them.
Somebody might.
Miss Connie, I'm gonna open up a food truck, I think, and go over there and start selling food all up.
I think we need a taco wagon. That's right.
Connie, there is a parking lot at the Highway 70 bridge for people to park in, and they still park everywhere. They park in that lot when the roads are full.
Yeah.
Oh.
They're gonna park free. They're gonna park where it's free before they park where it's cost them.
Yeah.
Well, tow away or pay a parking price.
Well, there's not enough room for them all. There's nowhere to put them all.
We'll put all this back on. We'll put all this back on for August.
Okay. Okay.
Anybody else? Everybody has seen all of the reports on the other office holders. The only one with us, I think, is Ms. Teresa, but you've got copies of reports from everyone else.
All of the reports are on file in my office that are listed from the other elected officials.
Correct. Mr. Byron, we're with you. You still with us? Mr. Byron.
Yeah, I'm still here. I'm just trying to unmute. Yeah, I'll be real quick because y'all been on there a long time. You can see, you can imagine what, I know like Dr. Beck just talked about a while ago, we've got over 2,000 4-H'ers and a couple hundred farmers and other several hundred families that we all work with. And you look at all the Hollywood squares here we've been dealing with tonight and what a challenge it is. It's going to be for doing a lot of our fall programming, but hey, it's a challenge, but it's an opportunity to do new things in a new way for us. I know right now our about 200 service learning kits our 4-H'ers have gotten or are getting. Our 4-H agents are taking out. They're making kits for homeless kids, for homeless parents, homeless families. Pretty neat little project. They've got one of the things that I really appreciate. Miss May Linger is going to work with us where we can possibly set up two maybe video type studios in the library for our 4-H agents to do their 4-H educational programming. And they're working with some of the teachers right now and doing surveys to work with them about how they're going to be able to utilize this, because 4-H has been co-curricular for years. It's not extracurricular, it's co-curricular, and is an additional resource for teachers as well as directly carrying out the 4-H programs and educational programs with the kids. One of the neat things that I'm excited what our team has put together is a virtual fair. Our county fair isn't going to happen this year, but the educational portion that we work with, they've come up with basically a catalog where people can enter things just by taking a picture of it. Everything from crops to, we're going to have any livestock or any baked goods, I don't think, in it. But anyway, they've got quite a few categories, and it's going to be the whole entire month of August that somebody can enter. It's just going to be a little virtual fun fair. So y'all will be hearing more about that. I really appreciate Edwin Hogan and the Sheriff's Department and anybody else that helped with it for our health department to get their traffic rerouted instead of being right up nearly against our front door. Every time I'd have to drive up on the bank or halfway up on the hill to get around cars to get in and out of the office every day, going on farm calls and whatnot. I got birds flipped at me. I had people throwing beer cans and cussing me out because they thought I was breaking in line. just to get into my own office. So things are much better now. We really appreciate all the help with that. There's a mentoring grant that Miss Anita's working with too, with the school system with Claudette Pfizer. They've got about 70 families of at-risk kids that they're going to be working with, putting mentors with small groups of those kids and helping them to learn, hopefully also some life skills, hands-on type projects, things that they can do to keep them engaged. And these mentors not only be working with the kids, just with might be a sewing group, might be an auto mechanics group, maybe something with woodworking or something else, or even gardening or whatever it might be their interest is. But it's trying to connect mentors with some of these kids who would be some of our at-risk kids. And there've been 70 of those identified. So far, I think our highlights are in here too. You can see some of the things that we've got going on. But I've got so far about 75 different Hispanic laborers I've got trained. Lots of farm calls and field visits just about every day. My pickup's got soil testing equipment, forage equipment, microscopes, projectors, fencing equipment, hand sanitizer for Mexicans. And I just had tobacco and soybeans on my kitchen table here looking at the microscope for the meeting. So it's kind of a fun but interesting summer for us. But we really appreciate, the 4-H chick chain is going to get to do something we hadn't done in years, is have the auction for all the boys and girls that participated in that educational program. I think Tammy said she's talked with Mayor McCarver, and we can have it on the courthouse lawn, or at least out there on the parking area in September. We have to be able to socially distance everything. That's why we can't even have but one person at a time in our office. Everything we're having to do is pretty much off site, which it typically is anyway for extension programs. But we're kind of excited about that. We've already had people calling about wanting to buy some of the pullets that these kids have raised. But September the 11th is the date on that. But we'll have more for you. We just appreciate all the support. Appreciate everybody helping us out, and so we can keep on making a difference in Cheatham County. We appreciate all of y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Byron. Anybody with questions for Mr. Byron?
Ronnie, did you get an email from Teresa at the H2A North Carolina?
Oh, I spoke with Teresa I've spoken with her on a couple of different, once or twice. It wasn't an email, but it was some of the issues they're having getting some of the guys in from Mexico because of the consulate being closed down. I've had, I don't know how many Mexicans call me that I've talked to and tried to figure out things that maybe not be Teresa, but some of the other contractors. Somehow there's been a miscommunication with some of the Mexican Hispanic workers. I'm sorry, I shouldn't be saying Mexican, Hispanic workers. But I don't remember one specifically from Teresa lately.
Teresa sent Dan, emailed me and Dan today about H2A workers and these energy drinks. They're having these H2A migrant workers drinking these energy drinks, and they're having heart attacks and dying. They lost 2 this weekend.
Well, believe that or not, of these 80 so far, I've still got about another 50 to go of the Hispanic laborers. You know, out there at your place, I do the little gap safety training with them. That's one of the things that I point out. There's a whole picture of the Red Bull and all these other power drinks. If you're going through heat stroke, heat stress, or anything, that's like throwing fuel on the fire. I'm sure Mike Breedlove could talk a whole lot about that too. But anyway, and that's exactly right. And I've told them I haven't heard of any of them this year until you mentioned that. But those things are dangerous. A lot of our farmers are either stopping them at noon and going back at 4, or taking them out of that, basically the 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock heat. And I've been out and, like I said, explain some of this to some of them too, because they actually bring a little packet, kind of like I saw it when I was in Mexico back in February on a mission trip down there. They bring back these little packets. It's like the noon tablets, like my wife uses when she runs. I use those in my water bottle. They have those little packets that they bring too. But none of the ones that I've talked to of ours, hopefully you're going to be doing that. But you're right, Walter. That stuff can be really dangerous.
Yeah. Well, she asked that, we would get the word out to
Okay.
everyone, not drink those energy drinks.
Well, you and Dan are on my list to do the GAP class out there anyway, so we'll remind your crew when we go out there.
Okay.
Anybody else?
One more question.
Red Bulls at night.
One more
Mr.
question.
Barron?
Yes, sir.
I said I drink the Red Bulls at night. I gotta get away from them.
Thank you, Mr. Lyles. Mr. Lyles?
Yes, Mr. Barron, you say they're testing for COVID in the health department building there, the conference room?
No, in the conference room, that's basically their command center, because they've got it's a contract crew that's coming in now that's doing it. And thank the Lord, our ladies that were out there burning themselves up, they're back upstairs now, and they've got another crew that's doing this. But they're there. I'll leave anywhere from, I don't know, from 5 till 6, and sometimes they're still there. Whatever they're doing all the administrative work and so forth after the tests have been done. But they pretty much confiscated that conference room. That we won't be able to do any kind of meetings or programs in there, at least through December is what I was told, the way that things are going right now.
Okay, well, we're just to let you know, it's still hot on the burner for the kitchen. We're going to keep trying, and I'll bring it up again, the capital improvements this next month, and we'll see what we can do about making something happen soon.
We appreciate that.
As soon as possible.
I appreciate that. Mayor McCarver sent me an email today, and I really appreciate that.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Beer Board, Insurance Committee, Education, Emergency Services, Education. Tim? Can't hear you.
We did meet, most of it was just, we didn't vote on anything. It was just discussions with Dr. Beck and Dr. Watson. I think she went over most of what we talked about tonight as far as schools starting back and what they were going to try to do and procedures.
Thank you, sir. Anybody with questions for Mr. Williamson? Capital improvements, Mr. Binkley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We talked about several things. The first thing was the remodel of the Tucker Empson building. And Mayor, I hope you have the prices with you. I've been looking, trying to find them. But we chose the lowest bid, and the name of the construction company I don't have in front of me, or also the price, but it's under $900,000. Mayor, do you have that?
I do, Chairman Binkley. It is Wright Construction out of Nashville, their office in Nashville, and the total of the low bid was $898,000 even.
800.
800,000.
$898,000.
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I'll put that in the form of a motion. Capital improvements approve that and that bid. So I'll put it in the form of a motion for the full commission.
Second, Mr. Anderson. Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
That's not the total cost, though.
That is not. We took up earlier at the budget committee additional cost that we took out of the project, so we wouldn't have a markup of the other fees and the markup of the constructor that we could bid out direct. 3 other items, actually, I should say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 additional items we brought up to the budget committee this afternoon because we were back in session after capital improvements approved that $898,000 bid. And we had 6 items with the build out of the video surveillance, the security, the gate, the fencing, the cabling, the network, also interrogation room and training room. And so the total cost, and if Sandrine, if you're on with us, you're going to hammer out the exact total cost of those extra items that we said could be part of this. If you would come on and give us an update on that.
Yes, the total cost with all of those items, hold on, I'm getting some feedback, sorry. Okay, the total cost with the items that you listed was $1,033,056.
And of that, in the budget committee, the vote, we voted to use the state of Tennessee money that's coming to the county later this month. It's going to be $1,020,000 in order to fund the project. If y'all vote to go along with this, which would include those items, And 3 of the items would come from the drug fund, according to the sheriff and Tim Binkley, which totaled up about $69,000 of the build out from the work equipment, the interrogation room, and the training room for equipment. But our decision from the from the budget committee was use the $1,020,000 coming from the state of Tennessee, which would fund this without us having to borrow any money, and the rest of the items come from the drug money at this point, which totaled right at $69,000. Sandrine, did you have a total on the 3 items from the drug fund?
Yes, well, and actually when I gave you that number, I had taken out the other 2 items before. It was a total of 1, 2, 1, 6. Took out the $125,000, so it was $1,091,781, and of that, 11. 2725. $69,725 was going to come from the drug fund, and $1,022,056 would come from the grant.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Did you discuss with the school board about using that back parking lot? That was part of the discussion on using some of the school's land behind that for the sheriff's department. Well, did you just discuss that with them?
Commissioner Lyles, there's been limited discussion. The board is looking for an appraisal, and then there's been some discussion back and forth with Dr. Beck and Dr. Watson from the standpoint of hopefully getting that place where we would be able to either get that building by building out in a like size building or similar building. They have the property somewhere else on the property there, so they wouldn't lose any of their storage they have now. So those are back and forth. Now that's not included in any of these numbers days. We're still negotiating that out and trying to figure out what that number looks like. But that would still, at the end of the day, that would be the last piece of the puzzle to come together and hopefully make this a complete campus for the sheriff.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You bet.
And there's been some discussion. I've had 1 or 2 commissioners that were concerned. This is a permanent move for the sheriff. This is not a temporary thing.
Yes.
This is a permanent new location for the sheriff's department, and puts them all in the same spot, in the same place.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I'll go ahead and make that form of a motion, the entire project cost, including the money from the drug fund. So from our committee, that way we have a complete package, unless you want to do it some different way.
No, sir, that's fine. Mr. Anderson, are you seconding the motion?
Second.
Are you seconding?
Yes.
We got a motion and a second to fund the project from the funds from the state, plus the necessary funds that the sheriff is committed from the drug fund.
And for the record, Chairman, that will include no borrowing, no money whatsoever for this project. It would have to be paid back anyway. And also, for the record, we're not touching any of the jail fund. That continues to be in reserve to deal with the jail going out back.
And there's no county taxpayer money involved in this whatsoever.
Not a penny. Yes, sir. That's correct.
Anybody with any discussion? Anybody with questions or concerns? Ms. Gupton, call the roll, please.
Gary Binkley,
Yes.
Dan Giroux,
Yes.
Tim Williamson,
Yes.
Chris Gilmore,
He's voting yes. He's shaking his head.
Johnny Jordan,
Yes.
Walter Weekly,
Yes.
Ryan Lovell,
Yes.
Eugene Evans,
Yes.
Ed Greer. Ed Greer.
Mr. Greer?
Yes. Sorry about that.
Randy Lyles,
Yes.
David Anderson.
Yes.
Anyone wish to change your vote? 12 yes.
12 no, 0 absent.
Motion is passed.
0 absent.
We're still with you, Mr. Binkley.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman, unless the mayor wants to update on any of the other things that he's working on, as far as the restrooms and the office building. at Sycamore Square. And then also the kitchen. We did discuss with the mayor about the kitchen at the UT Extension office and getting us some numbers to put in the kitchen into the conference room or putting it in Mr. Barron's area. So I don't know if the mayor's got anything tonight or not. I haven't had a chance to speak with him about it.
Chairman Binkley, thank you for that. We will have Rudy. I've spoken to Rudy a couple of times. We were trying to make sure that Tucker Empson building kind of got in place and moving. And we'll now turn our attention to the restroom that was requested up front at Sycamore Square, as well as the needs of the UT Extension office. So Rudy will be at the next capital improvement, so we can start to put some lines to that. There was one other item at capital improvements, Chairman Binkley, that was table here in the mayor's office, which is a request for $1,406.22 to run those two cables, so we can have a direct line here in the mayor's office. That was approved 5-1 vote in committee and to forward it on to the commission.
I'll make that in the form of a motion that money comes out of capital improvements or budget.
Do we have a second, Ms. Mayo? Do we have a
I
second?
didn't say anything.
I'm sorry.
Second.
Second, Mr. Anderson. Discussion on it? Oh, I'll never live it down. Any discussion at all? Call the roll, Ms. Gupta.
Gary Binkley,
Yes.
Angela,
Yes.
Tim Williamson,
Yes.
Chris Gilmore,
Yes.
Connie Mayo,
No.
Johnny Jordan,
Yes.
Walter Winkley,
Yeah.
Diane Lovell,
Yes.
Eugene Evans,
Yes.
Ed Greer,
Yes.
Randy Lyles,
Yes.
David Anderson.
Yes.
Always change your vote. Ms. Gupta,
Have 11 yes, 1 no.
motion has passed. We're still with you. Is that
That's
it?
all I have. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Records Committee, calendar and rules didn't meet.
No.
Debt Committee, nothing yet. Mr. Gilmore?
I'm sorry, I keep forgetting to hit this unmute button.
That's okay.
We talked with the mayor, and I think we were going to try to get together once we got done with this meeting, because I was on vacation last week. I think this, with all this coming up so fast, but I know there's been some discussion about it and us meeting and trying to get see if we can get the computers and things that we need to make this process a little easier than it was tonight.
Thank you, sir. That would be graciously appreciated. Road and Bridge, Mr. Weekly, you got anything else?
We passed the motion to establish a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit on Neil Hooper Road. Doesn't have any kind of speed limits, and I did have a petition. I gave it to Mr. Upton today, so I put that in the form of a motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Binkley. Discussion on that road signage, establishing the road at 25 miles per hour. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'm sorry. Anyone opposed? The ayes have that, Mr. Weekly. Anything else?
That's it.
Industrial Development Board's not here. Any other business? Esther? No. We have a motion on the consent calendar.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Ms. Lovell to approve, second by Mr. Williamson. All those in favor of approving the consent calendar say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The ayes have that. Any other motions? Any other business? Do we have a motion, Mr. Wicker?
Johnny,
Whoa, somebody.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Anderson.
earlier you talked about about the enclosures so that we possibly could do the things there in the courthouse like we normally have our meetings? I know in my building, we actually have chairs that has the surrounding things. I don't know if that's something you would want me to just check on how much they pay for them or get a picture.
We were looking yesterday at this, or I was. They make a three-sided plexiglass that sits all the way to the floor. It sits around a child's desk in school, but it's about a 3-foot wide desktop. So if we had to buy the little folding tables that were 3 foot wide by 18 or 20 inches deep, you and the desk would all be enclosed inside of that, except for the back. Now it closes 3 sides, but it doesn't close the back. And my question, would you feel safer with that to the point that you would attend the meetings, or you just don't want, and I'm not trying to put anybody on the spot because I've got the same issues in my family with my mother being with us. So would that make everyone feel safer about being here in the court?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Everybody feels like, because those little things are about $350 a piece. They're not cheap. They were until this epidemic hit, but now they're not.
Can you believe we're having to have this conversation?
No, and what scares me is this may be going on for quite a while. I mean, they say they've got a vaccine that may be coming out, but they've still got to manufacture the dosage. And unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know which, but Eugene and myself and Dr. Mayo, or Miss Mayo and Mr. Rowe would all be able to get the vaccine first. So there are some thoughts about being a little older than everyone else. But anyway, I think they're going to try to follow up Mr. Anderson on that and see what we can come up with and see if they can figure out where to come up with some money to do that with.
Yeah, I was just saying that in my building, because of COVID, and you know how Nashville is, we actually have in our main area on the 4th floor where we have some chairs. They're made together. It's just a piece, and then the front where you sit in there, no one is around you, so you're completely enclosed except for getting out of your chair. Very comfortable too.
The ones that we saw have a little slit at the bottom, so your microphone cables and all could come through there. If you had laptops, they could come through. The plugins could all come through there as well. So, has everybody been getting their packets through email now?
I have.
Everybody's been getting them. Okay, good. Anything else to come, Mr.
Commissioner,
Gilmore?
I think the sheriff has something. He like.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I just want to take this moment on behalf of Chief Binkley and I. Y'all have been nothing but completely supportive of your sheriff's office, and I know, and it just shows tonight. You know how hard we work and what we want to do to serve this county, and we are so proud. I mean, every morning we walk in, Tim and I are just so proud that we're part of this, and we're so appreciative of your support, because we couldn't do this without all 12 of you. And Mayor, you've been a godsend to this county, and I say that not politically, I say it personally, that you really have been. And so everyone, it's just like we're all such a team of working for the benefit of every citizen in this county. And I'm just proud to be here, and I'm very appreciative. And we may have differences, but don't ever think that I don't appreciate each and every one of you. I do. You've given me this chance and this opportunity to serve, and I couldn't be more humbled and more appreciative as well. So thank you, each and every one of you, for pushing us forward for the benefit of our county. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. Anybody else? Ms. Lovell?
I was just going to say thank you to the sheriff and Tim, because none of us, except maybe Chris, can imagine what you guys do every day, and we appreciate you.
Thank you, Dinah.
Thank you. Anybody else? Do we have any kind of a motion? Mr. Weekly?
Motion to adjourn.
We have a second.